Ancient monuments across the globe whisper a secret mathematical language. This video uncovers the hidden geometry, linking the world's most mysterious structures, revealing a global pattern that defies our historical timeline. You will discover how sites separated by oceans and millennia share precise alignments and proportions, pointing to a lost, advanced knowledge. Why would builders from different eras encode the same complex math into stone? The answer could reshape everything we know about our past. What do you believe connects these ancient wonders? This language is written into the world around us. Think of the perfect spiral of a seashell or the intricate symmetry of a snowflake. These are not random designs. They are expressions of what we now call sacred geometry, a system of shapes and proportions that ancient thinkers believed held the very secrets of the cosmos. Long before modern science, philosophers like Plato saw in these forms a divine blueprint, a hidden order underlying all of creation. The golden ratio, for instance, appears in the proportions of a human face and the branching of a tree. Another shape, the vesica piscis, formed by the overlap of two circles, was seen as a symbol of the meeting of heaven and earth. These were not merely decorative ideas. They were considered fundamental templates, a way to build in harmony with the universe itself. This profound concept becomes the key that unlocks a pattern across continents. From the pyramids of Giza to the temples of ancient Mexico, we see the same mathematical fingerprints etched in stone, as if different cultures were all reading from the same lost architectural score. Standing on the Giza Plateau, the Great Pyramid presents a riddle carved in limestone. Its base forms a square so perfect that the difference between its longest and shortest sides is less than the length of a modern door. Each of its four sides faces almost exactly true north, south, east, and west, an alignment achieved with an accuracy that would challenge modern surveyors. This is not the work of chance but of breathtaking intention. The mathematical genius continues in its proportions. If you take the pyramid's perimeter and divide it by twice its original height, the result is a number strikingly close to pi, the fundamental constant representing the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. It is as if the circle's most sacred secret was encoded into a square-based structure. This profound knowledge is echoed within the king's chamber, where the dimensions of the sarcophagus and the room itself resonate with the golden ratio, creating a space of perfect harmonic proportions. The pyramid, therefore, is far more than a single magnificent tomb. It functions as a primary benchmark, a fixed point of reference in a hidden geometric web that stretches across the planet. To see this web come alive, we must turn our gaze from the sands of Egypt to the jungles of a distant continent. Across the sea, the weathered stones of Stonehenge stand silent against the English sky. While the Great Pyramid is a monument of staggering precision and mass, Stonehenge offers a different kind of genius. Its power lies not in its height, but in its alignment. The great sarsen stones form a circle, and within that circle, specific stones and arches create precise sightlines. On the summer solstice, the sun rises directly over the heel stone, casting its light into the heart of the monument. During the winter solstice, the sun sets perfectly framed within another trilithon arch. This is not a coincidence. The entire arrangement functions as a massive celestial calendar, built to track the sun and moon with breathtaking accuracy. But the geometry goes deeper than simple alignments. Look at the positions of the stones, and you begin to see triangles and axes carved into the landscape. Some researchers suggest the very dimensions of the sarsen circle are a mathematical code. The perimeter of the circle, for example, might have been intended to represent 366 megalithic yards, a unit of measurement that connects to the number of days in a leap year. This transforms the structure from a simple observatory into a potential calculator, a device for predicting eclipses and marking the passage of time. Why would ancient cultures separated by vast oceans feel such a powerful need to encode the movements of the heavens into stone? The Great Pyramid captures the geometry of the earth, while Stonehenge captures the geometry of the sky. They seem to be different answers to the same profound question, different instruments in a global symphony we are only just beginning to hear. To complete this chorus, we must journey to a third continent, where another civilization built its own geometric marvel into a mountain peak. This idea of a global symphony of stone leads to a staggering possibility. What if the Great Pyramid, Stonehenge, and other ancient wonders are not isolated masterpieces, but individual points on a vast planet-spanning grid? This is the overarching theory that connects them all, a concept suggesting these sites were deliberately placed according to a grand geometric plan. Imagine the Earth wrapped in an invisible net of energy lines, sometimes called ley lines or great circles. According to this view, the monuments were built where these lines intersect, acting as nodes or anchor points in a system we can no longer fully perceive. The evidence cited is often as precise as the structures themselves. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for instance, sits at the exact intersection of the longest land meridian, running north to south, and the longest land parallel, running east to west. This is not a random location. It is the geometric center of the Earth's landmass. How could an ancient civilization have known this? The theory pushes further, drawing lines on a map that connect Giza to Stonehenge, and then onward to temples in India, pyramids in Mexico, and the mysterious Moai statues of Easter Island. These lines often trace great circle routes, the shortest paths between points on a sphere, revealing alignments that defy coincidence. This transforms our entire understanding. We are no longer looking at separate cultures building in isolation. We are looking at the scattered pieces of a single, coordinated global project. The scale of such an undertaking is almost beyond comprehension. It suggests a lost chapter in human history, a time when a forgotten civilization, or perhaps a shared global knowledge, possessed a profound understanding of the Earth's geometry. Who could have orchestrated such a feat, and for what unimaginable purpose were they mapping the very planet with stone? Far to the south, in the highlands of Mexico, the ruins of Teotihuacan hold a secret that echoes across the Atlantic. Known as the City of the Gods, its grand avenue of the dead cuts a dramatic path through the ancient metropolis. Yet this avenue does not run perfectly north to south. It is offset by a precise 15.5 degrees east of true north. This is not an error in construction. It is a deliberate alignment, one that matches, with astonishing closeness, the orientation of the Giza pyramids in Egypt. Two different cultures, two different continents, chose the same specific angle for their most sacred structures. The geometry deepens as you examine the city's monumental core. The massive Pyramid of the Sun and the slightly smaller Pyramid of the Moon are not simply placed at random. Their positions relative to one another and the proportions of their platforms and stairways are governed by the golden ratio. This same harmonic proportion found in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid is woven into the very fabric of this American city. Perhaps the most breathtaking parallel is one of sheer scale. If you were to walk the base of the Pyramid of the Sun, measuring its perimeter, you would find it is only slightly smaller than the base perimeter of the Great Pyramid of Giza. The difference is so minor it feels intentional, as if both constructions were aiming for the same dimensional target. How can we explain such specific parallels in measurement orientation, and sacred proportion appearing in two worlds that history tells us were separate. Independent invention seems an increasingly fragile answer. Instead, it points toward a shared, underlying doctrine, a foundational school of thought that understood the earth and the heavens through a universal language of shape and number. This was not a mere coincidence of design, but a conscious application of a global blueprint. If these three sites are indeed connected, who were the original architects of this planetary plan? This mathematical harmony finds its purest expression in a single, extraordinary number. The golden ratio, approximately 1.618, weaves through the fabric of the universe with uncanny persistence. You find it in the elegant spiral of a nautilus shell, in the branching pattern of a tree's limbs, and even in the proportions of your own hand. It is an irrational number, meaning its decimal places continue forever without repeating, and it is often represented by the Greek letter phi. But for ancient builders, phi was far more than a mathematical curiosity. It was a divine proportion, a visual secret to creating beauty and balance that resonated with the human spirit. They saw this same ratio reflected in the heavens and in life itself, and so they encoded it into their most sacred spaces. At the Parthenon in Greece, the entire facade of the temple fits perfectly within a golden rectangle. The relationship between the height and width of its structure, and even the spacing between its majestic columns, all adhere to this sacred proportion. This was a conscious choice, an application of a universal aesthetic principle to create a building that felt eternally right, eternally stable. We see the same deliberate design in the Great Pyramid, where the ratio of its apothem, the line from the apex down the center of a face to half its base length, gives us phi. Inside the king's chamber, the very shape of the sarcophagus and the dimensions of the room itself are governed by this ratio. This is not a phenomenon confined to one continent or one culture. From the temples of ancient India to the pyramids of the sun and moon in Mexico, the same mathematical fingerprint appears again and again. The persistent presence of the golden ratio in monuments separated by vast oceans and millennia suggests something profound. It implies that these diverse cultures were not working in isolation. Instead, they seem to have been tapping into a shared, foundational understanding of a cosmic language, using this universal constant to build structures that were not just shelters, but resonant instruments of stone, harmonized with the very laws of creation. Long before the first stone was laid at Giza, another culture was mastering the language of geometry. On the sun-drenched islands of Malta, the megalithic temples of Haga Kim and Emnajdra rise from the limestone, their origins lost in the mists of prehistory. These are not simple stone circles. They are complex architectural wonders, built with a sophistication that defies their immense age. Their ground plans form intricate cloverleaf patterns, a series of elliptical forecourts and interconnected chambers that flow into one another with a fluid, almost organic grace. This is not haphazard construction. The curves and lobes of these temples reveal a sophisticated understanding of geometry, a deliberate use of form that creates spaces of both function and profound symbolism. The true genius of these structures, however, is written in light. The massive stone slabs of Emnajdra are arranged with breathtaking intention. On the spring and autumn equinoxes, the rays of the rising sun pierce the main doorway, projecting a perfect rectangle of light deep into the central chamber. During the solstices, the sun's beams illuminate the edges of specific megaliths, marking the turning points of the year with silent, celestial accuracy. How did a people working over 5,000 years ago without metal tools achieve such precise alignments? The massive stones, some weighing many tons, were quarried, transported, and erected with a skill that rivals later civilizations. The temples of Malta stand as a crucial, early point in our geometric network. They prove that this advanced knowledge of astronomy and sacred geometry was not born in Egypt or Mesopotamia, but was a global phenomenon flowering in unexpected places. This prehistoric precision forces us to ask a difficult question. Were these temples merely local places of worship, or were they part of a much older, worldwide tradition of mapping the heavens onto the earth? But what if these geometric alignments were more than just lines on a map? What if they traced something tangible, a hidden energy flowing through the earth itself? This is the compelling, if controversial, idea of ley lines. In the early 20th century, an Englishman named Alfred Watkins had a sudden vision of the British countryside, not as a random collection of hills and valleys, but as a network. He saw it crisscrossed by straight tracks connecting ancient mounds, old churches built on pagan sites, and prominent hilltops. He called these alignments ley lines, suggesting they were old straight tracks, forgotten pathways used for trade or ceremonial travel. The idea quickly captured the public imagination and evolved. Soon, these lines were not just seen as ancient roads, but as channels for a mysterious earth energy, a spiritual current that the ancients could somehow perceive and harness. They believed that building their monuments at the powerful intersections of these lines would amplify the sacredness of the site, connecting it to a planetary life force. Mainstream science remains deeply skeptical, often pointing to statistical probability. With so many ancient sites dotting the landscape, they argue, finding straight lines connecting some of them is almost inevitable, a simple pattern our brains are wired to see. Yet, the geometric consistency of certain major alignments gives even skeptics pause. Consider a line that runs from St. Michael's Mount in Cornwall, through the ancient stone circles at Avebury, and continues to the sacred site of Glastonbury Tor. This is not a random collection of points. It forms a purposeful, straight track across the English landscape, connecting places of immense historical and spiritual significance. Similar alignments are proposed across the globe, connecting the Great Pyramid to other sacred centers in a vast geometric web. Whether these lines truly carry a measurable energy or whether they represent something more symbolic, their potential role is profound. They invite us to consider an ancient world that was deeply animated and interconnected, a world where the land itself was seen as a living being. The placement of sacred sites might not have been just about astronomy or local geography, but about tapping into the very heartbeat of the planet. This transforms our understanding from a story of isolated genius to one of a coordinated, global vision. If our ancestors were indeed mapping an invisible grid of energy, what were they trying to accomplish? Were they building a planetary engine of stone designed to harmonize with forces we can no longer feel? Deep within the Cambodian jungle, Angkor Wat rises as a stone universe. This colossal temple complex is far more than a collection of buildings. It is a precise architectural model of Hindu cosmology. Its entire layout is a grand mandala, a geometric symbol representing the cosmos. The 5 central towers are arranged in a distinct quincunx pattern, 4 marking the cardinal directions and 1 soaring at the center to represent the mythical Mount Meru, the axis of the world. Vast moats encircle the enclosures, symbolizing the cosmic oceans that were believed to surround the mountain at the center of creation. Every wall, every gallery, and every causeway is part of this divine blueprint, designed to bring the cosmic order down to Earth. But the celestial connections here are even more specific and breathtaking. The layout of the central temple complex is a terrestrial map of the stars. Researchers have found that the positions of Angkor Wat's main towers correspond with the stars of the constellation Draco, the dragon, as they would have appeared in the sky at the temple's foundation in the 12th century. This is not a vague similarity, it is a deliberate mirroring. The entire geography of the greater Angkor city complex was also laid out along a precise east-west axis, aligned to capture the sun on the spring equinox. On that morning, the sun rises directly over the central tower, a spectacular event that illuminates the temple's heart. This practice of mapping the heavens onto the earth, of building a terrestrial reflection of a celestial pattern, is the very same theme we witnessed at Stonehenge and in the temples of Malta. It reveals a shared, almost universal impulse to anchor human creation to the eternal rhythms of the cosmos. Why would cultures with no possible contact feel compelled to build the same sky maps in stone over and over again? The answer seems to lie not in shared blueprints, but in a shared, profound understanding of a hidden order, a geometric truth that connects the earth to the stars. These celestial alignments transform silent stone into a ticking cosmic clock. The Great Pyramid's narrow, internal shafts, once thought to be mere air vents, point with astonishing precision toward the pole star of its era, Alpha Draconis, and the belt of the constellation Orion. This was not random stargazing, it was targeted observation, a way to anchor the pharaoh's journey to specific, eternal stars. Far away in the American Southwest, a different kind of timepiece marks the days. At Choco Canyon, a solitary spiral petroglyph is carved high on a cliff face. For most of the year, it is just a curious design. But on the summer solstice, a dagger of sunlight, channeled through the cracks of two massive rock slabs, pierces the center of the spiral. As the days shorten, the light dagger moves, slicing through the carved rings to mark the equinoxes and the winter solstice with silent, dramatic accuracy. This universal drive to track celestial cycles reveals the profound function behind the sacred forms. Geometry provided the stable, unchanging framework, the perfect squares and circles and golden ratios, while astronomy provided the moving parts. The stable form allowed them to capture and predict the motion. This was the ultimate purpose, to create a predictable interface with a cosmos that could often seem chaotic. By building these grand observatories, our ancestors were not merely watching the sky, they were bringing its order down to earth. They were encoding time itself into the landscape, creating a permanent record of the seasons to guide planting and harvests, to mark sacred ceremonies, and to assure their communities that the sun would always return. This marriage of eternal geometry and cyclical astronomy gave them a measure of control over their world, a way to harmonize human life with the grand, turning mechanism of the heavens. The silent Moai of Easter Island stand guard on the most isolated inhabited landmass on Earth, carved from volcanic rock and erected on massive stone platforms called ahu. These giants gaze not out to the vast Pacific, but inland, watching over their people. Their presence here is a profound statement. On an island with limited resources, the immense effort required to quarry, transport, and raise these colossal figures speaks to a motivation that transcends the practical. It reveals a universal human drive to impose order and meaning upon the world, even at its farthest edges. The geometry of their placement is precise and deliberate. The ahu platforms are not randomly oriented. Many are aligned with breathtaking accuracy to capture the rising or setting sun during the solstices, turning the entire coastline into a vast celestial calendar. But the pattern goes deeper than astronomy. The distribution of the ahu platforms and their statues across the island appears to follow a planned geometric network, one that may have delineated the territories of different clans and marked vital resources like freshwater sources. Each statue facing its community was more than a spiritual ancestor. It was a fixed point in a social and environmental grid. How did a culture develop in such profound isolation, yet feel the same compulsion to encode cosmic and terrestrial order into their landscape? The Moai of Easter Island offer a powerful answer. They demonstrate that this language of sacred geometry was not something that needed to be taught across continents. It appears to be a fundamental part of the human spirit, a deep-seated need to find pattern and purpose, to build monuments that whisper, even in the deepest silence, that we are connected to something greater. The presence of pi within the Great Pyramid is a mathematical whisper from a forgotten age. This irrational number, representing the constant ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, was not formally defined in the West until over 2 millennia after the pyramid was built. Yet there it is, subtly encoded in the very shape of the structure. If you take the pyramid's original perimeter and divide it by twice its height, the result is a figure extraordinarily close to pi. This is not a vague approximation. It is a precise geometric relationship, suggesting the builders possessed a deep, working knowledge of this fundamental constant. The same mathematical fingerprint may appear at Stonehenge, where the dimensions of the Sarsen circle and its inner bluestone arrangements have been analyzed to reveal proportions that also resonate with pi. This points to a knowledge base that was not localized but potentially global. Further evidence lies in the mastery of angles. The Great Pyramid's iconic 52-degree slope is not an arbitrary choice. It is a specific, challenging angle to achieve on such a colossal scale, one that required an advanced understanding of trigonometry to maintain consistency across all four sides. This precise angular knowledge is mirrored in the stepped pyramids of the Maya, where the inclinations of temple platforms are built to exact, repeating degrees. These consistent angles across continents are the hallmark of a standardized system, a shared architectural language rooted in complex mathematics. How could these diverse cultures have independently arrived at the same complex solutions? The simplest answer is that they did not invent them independently. They were all applying fragments of a much older, highly sophisticated science, a lost curriculum of geometry and engineering that understood the world through numbers and angles. This was not merely practical knowledge for stacking stones. It was a sacred science, a way of building that harmonized human creation with the immutable laws of the universe itself. High in the Andes, Machu Picchu clings to a mountain ridge like a city woven from the clouds themselves. This is not a fortress imposed upon the landscape, but a structure that emerges from it, a stunning fusion of human intellect and natural form. Every terrace, every temple, and every staircase follows the fierce contours of the mountain, yet within this apparent organic flow lies a rigorous geometric plan. The city's layout is a series of interlocking trapezoids and perfect right angles, with plazas and residential areas arranged along a clear central axis that seems to chart a course through the sky. This geometry was not used to dominate the wilderness but to converse with it. Key structures are deliberately oriented toward the sacred peaks of the surrounding Andes, the Apus or mountain spirits that watch over the city. On the solstices, the sun rises and sets in precise alignment with specific notches in the distant mountains, turning the entire urban plan into a vast stone sundial. At the heart of this celestial machine sits the Teotihuacan, the so-called hitching post of the sun. This intricately carved granite pillar is far more than a ritual object. Its angles and planes are cut with such precision that they cast distinct, shifting shadows throughout the day and year. During the equinoxes, the pillar stands perfectly upright, casting no shadow at all, a moment of perfect balance between light and dark. It was a sophisticated astronomical instrument, a clock of stone that allowed its keepers to track the passage of time with celestial accuracy. The entire city, therefore, becomes a testament to a universal principle we have seen across the world: the use of sacred geometry to build a bridge between the earthly and the divine. Here, high in the thin air of the mountains, the Inca demonstrated that the highest purpose of this ancient science was not to conquer nature, but to find a profound and harmonious balance within its overwhelming power. This profound similarity in thought presents us with one of history's greatest mysteries. Did this shared geometric language spread across the ancient world like a rumor passed from one culture to the next? Or did it spring up independently in the minds of builders who never met? This is the core of the debate between cultural diffusion and independent invention. On one side, the evidence for a shared source is powerful. How else can we explain the same precise angle of orientation at Giza and Teotihuacan, two sites separated by an ocean? The consistent use of the golden ratio and pi in structures built thousands of years apart suggests a common curriculum, a lost textbook of sacred mathematics. Proponents of diffusion imagine a seafaring civilization, perhaps the legendary Atlantis, or a network of enlightened travelers who carried this advanced blueprint around the globe, teaching its principles to emerging cultures. The idea of a single source feels satisfying, offering a neat solution to a planet-wide pattern. Yet, the theory of independent invention presents an equally compelling vision. It suggests that the human mind, when confronting the fundamental questions of existence, naturally arrives at the same profound answers. Different cultures, gazing at the same spiraling galaxy or the same perfect Nautilus shell, could have independently discovered the same geometric truths. They saw the circle in the sun, the triangle in the mountains, and the golden ratio in an unfolding leaf, and they built their world in its image. This view celebrates the universal spark of human genius, a shared capacity for discovery that transcends any single teacher. The sheer scale and precision of the parallels, however, make it difficult to dismiss the possibility of a connection. Perhaps the truth is not a simple choice between these two ideas, but a more complex tapestry woven from both. Could there have been a few ancient waypoints, centers of learning that influenced vast regions, while other cultures independently rediscovered the same principles? This puzzle forces us to reconsider not just how they built, but how they thought. Were our ancestors connected by more than we can currently prove? The towering ziggurats of Mesopotamia rose from the fertile plains like man-made mountains, their stepped terraces reaching for the heavens. These were not tombs for kings, but stairways for gods. The great ziggurat of a massive structure of baked brick and ambition, was conceived as a cosmic axis, a literal bridge connecting the world of humans to the realm of the divine. Its construction was an act of profound geometry, built on a perfect square base and meticulously aligned to the four cardinal directions, anchoring the celestial gateway to the Earth's fundamental order. Every layer, every precisely calculated terrace, followed a sacred blueprint of proportions, a mathematical hymn rendered in clay and tar. This idea of a world mountain, a central pillar linking earth and sky, is a stunning echo across civilizations. We hear it in the pyramids of Giza, pointing to the stars of Orion, and in the temples of Teotihuacan, where the Pyramid of the Sun mirrors this very same cosmic concept. It is the pyramid form itself that becomes the universal symbol. From the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Mexico and the river valleys of Mesopotamia, this singular geometric shape, the pyramid, emerges as the chosen architectural language for touching the divine. How can we explain this profound symbolic consensus? The shared form suggests more than a coincidence of design. It points to a common underlying worldview, a universal human intuition that mathematics and architecture could build a ladder to the stars. Different cultures working in complete isolation all looked upward and chose the same geometric shape to make their ascent, as if the pyramid was the only key that could unlock the door between worlds. The placement of these ancient sites presents a logistical puzzle that seems to defy possibility. How could cultures separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years position their monuments with such stunning accuracy on the globe? This science of measuring the Earth, known as geodesy, suggests they possessed a forgotten mastery of our planet's true form. The Great Pyramid, for instance, sits at the precise latitude of 29 degrees, 58 minutes, and 45 seconds north. This is not just a random coordinate. This specific location is where the Earth's circumference is at its greatest, a geodetic marker of profound significance. Similarly, other sacred sites are found positioned on key latitudes and longitudes with a consistency that feels intentional, as if they were pins placed on a global map by a single, knowing hand. Without satellites or advanced technology, how was this achieved? The answer likely lies in a fusion of advanced astronomy and pure mathematics. By carefully tracking the paths of the sun and stars over long periods, ancient surveyors could have calculated their position on the Earth's curved surface. They may have used massive, sighted alignments across the landscape, creating a network of reference points that spanned continents. Some researchers even propose they used more subtle tools, like the resonance of sound or the flow of water, to sense the energetic qualities of a location, choosing sites that harmonized with these invisible currents. This was not a haphazard process of finding a nice hill to build upon. It was a deliberate, scientific act of global positioning, a coordinated project to create a network of stone that has endured for millennia. The true purpose of this planetary grid, however, leads us from the question of how it was built to the far more profound mystery of why it was built. What were they trying to accomplish by wiring the planet with such geometric precision? Scratched into the arid plains of Peru, the Nazca lines transform the desert floor into a colossal geometric canvas. These are not monuments you can walk around like a pyramid or a stone circle. Their true form is invisible from the ground, a secret kept from the people who made them, only revealing their breathtaking scale and precision from the vantage of the sky. Imagine straight lines so unwavering they run for miles across broken terrain, never deviating. Enormous trapezoids and perfect triangles stretch across the landscape, their sides meeting at crisp, clean angles. Alongside them, spirals and complex animal figures are drawn with a single, continuous line. This was not doodling on a grand scale. Each glyph required meticulous advanced planning, a master blueprint executed with stunning accuracy over vast distances. The builders had to translate a small, precise design into a land art so large its outlines could only be verified from high above. How did they achieve such perfection without the ability to fly? The answer lies in their sophisticated geometric technique. They likely used a series of stakes and chords, scaling up their designs through a grid system, a method that demonstrates a profound understanding of proportion and measurement. The purpose of these immense drawings continues to spark debate. Were they a giant astronomical calendar, their alignments marking celestial events on the horizon? Or were they ritual pathways walked by participants in ceremonies meant to call upon the gods? Whatever their ultimate function, the Nazca lines deliver a powerful message. They prove that ancient geometry was not just about enclosing space within walls or pointing stones at the stars. It was also about imposing perfect, intelligent forms directly upon the body of the Earth, turning the entire landscape into a sacred expression of mathematical order. This act of large-scale terrain modification connects this remote Peruvian desert to the global network, suggesting a shared impulse to write the language of the cosmos not just in stone, but into the very soil beneath our feet. Each shape carved into these ancient stones held a universe of meaning. The circle, with no beginning and no end, was a perfect symbol for eternity and the celestial dome above. The square, with its 4 equal sides, represented the solidity of the earth, the 4 cardinal directions, and the stable foundation of mortal life. And the triangle, pointing ever upward, embodied aspiration, a bridge between the earthly and the divine, often reflecting trinities of gods or cosmic principles. This was not merely decorative symbolism. It was a profound spiritual language, a way of speaking to the gods through form and number. When a builder laid out a circular stone ring or raised a pyramid to a point, they were not just constructing a shelter. They were writing a prayer in geometry, encoding their deepest beliefs about the nature of reality into a structure meant to last for ages. A temple built on these principles became far more than a place of gathering. It was a microcosm, a miniature universe. Its dimensions, dictated by sacred ratios like the golden mean, were believed to vibrate in harmony with the cosmos itself. This careful alignment of human creation with cosmic order was thought to facilitate a connection to higher realms, a conduit through which divine energy could flow. The very act of building was a sacred duty, a ritual performed to maintain the balance of the world. Why go to such incredible lengths to encode these ideas in stone? Because stone was permanent, it could withstand the ravages of time, carrying its coded message across millennia, long after spoken languages were forgotten and empires turned to dust. These monuments were intended as eternal anchors, holding the spiritual understanding of a culture fast against the currents of change, ensuring that their vision of a harmonious cosmos would never be lost. The timeline of civilization was never meant to be broken, yet on a windswept hill in southeastern Turkey, a discovery did exactly that. Göbekli Tepe, a sprawling complex of stone circles, dates back to an almost incomprehensible 9,600 years before the Common Era. This is a staggering 6.5 millennia older than Stonehenge and 7,000 years before the Great Pyramid of Giza was even a concept. Here, hunter-gatherers, long before the invention of pottery or metal tools, erected a sanctuary of breathtaking ambition. They carved massive, T-shaped pillars, some weighing over 10 tons, from solid limestone bedrock, and arranged them into precise, concentric circles. The sheer scale of labor and organization required for such a feat completely rewrites our understanding of human prehistory. It proves that the spark of complex society, the ability to plan, coordinate, and execute a grand architectural vision, ignited far earlier than anyone ever suspected. The geometry of the site is undeniable. The enclosures are not random collections of stones. They are carefully laid out, with central pairs of larger pillars symmetrically surrounded by smaller ones, all oriented within a clear, circular plan. Even more telling, specific pillars within these rings are aligned with the rising and setting of certain stars, particularly those in the constellation Sirius, turning the entire complex into a sophisticated observatory. This was not a crude first attempt. This was the work of masters. The existence of Göbekli Tepe forces a profound and unsettling question. If this represents the very dawn of monumental architecture, where did its builders acquire such a mature and sophisticated knowledge of geometry and astronomy? It stands not as a primitive beginning, but as a fully formed peak, suggesting its own lost history stretching back into an even deeper, forgotten age. Who were the teachers of the teachers, and what other chapters of our geometric story remain buried beneath the dust of millennia? Plato looked beyond the circle and the square to 5 perfect forms he believed built the cosmos itself. These are the Platonic solids, shapes so unique that every face is an identical regular polygon, every angle is the same, and they fit perfectly within a single sphere. The ancient philosopher assigned each solid to a fundamental element of the universe. The stable cube represented Earth, the fluid icosahedron was water. The sharp tetrahedron symbolized fire, the airy octahedron stood for air, and the mysterious dodecahedron, with its 12 pentagonal faces, was reserved for the cosmos, the shape of the heavens. This was not just a poetic metaphor, but a serious cosmological model. The idea that these perfect forms were the actual blueprints for reality finds a stunning echo in the stones of our most ancient monuments. Could the very geometry of these sacred sites be a reflection of these cosmic solids? Some researchers see the cube's perfect symmetry in the foundational layout of temples, while the pyramid's triangular faces naturally evoke the tetrahedron of fire pointing toward the sky. But it is the dodecahedron that holds the most captivating possibility. This complex 12-sided shape, built from pentagons, has been mathematically linked to the geometry of our planet. Some theories suggest that a dodecahedron, if nested within the Earth, would have its vertices touch the surface at specific, significant points. And when you look at a map, you find that certain sacred sites and areas of ancient civilization appear clustered near these proposed nodes. This is not to say our ancestors built giant stone dodecahedrons, but that they may have understood the Earth itself as a manifestation of this perfect form. They may have chosen their most sacred locations not at random, but as points of harmonic resonance on a planetary crystal. Their structures, then, were not just buildings, but conscious echoes of the universe's fundamental architecture, a way to ground cosmic geometry into the physical world. This transforms the scattered monuments from a collection of wonders into a single, unified statement, a testament to a lost science that saw the entire cosmos written in the language of shape. If the very ground we walk on is part of a geometric matrix, what other secrets might be unlocked by seeing the world through their eyes? Yet this geometric impulse did not stop at grand temples or isolated pyramids. It found another expression along the windswept coast of Brittany, France, where the landscape itself becomes a mathematical diagram. Here, the Karnak stones stand in silent, staggering regiments. Over 3,000 megaliths are arranged in long, parallel rows that march across the countryside for kilometers, a sight so vast it feels less like a monument and more like a language written in stone. The sheer scale of this undertaking is overwhelming. To erect so many stones, some weighing many tons, and to arrange them with such geometric regularity speaks of a society with a powerful, unified vision spanning generations. This was not a single project completed in one lifetime, but a cultural tradition sustained for millennia, each generation adding to this colossal pattern. The precision of the alignments is the key to their mystery. These are not random collections of boulders. The rows form precise angles, converging and diverging as if charting invisible lines of force across the land. Many researchers believe these lines were a giant astronomical calculator. Certain rows point directly to the rising sun at the solstices, while others may have tracked the complex cycles of the moon. Walking among these stones would have been like walking through a living calendar, where the movements of the heavens were mirrored by the fixed positions on the earth. Why would a culture invest such immense, sustained effort into this project? The Karnak alignments suggest a profound need to impose a cosmic order onto the local landscape, to weave the fabric of the heavens into the very soil of Brittany. This transforms our understanding of prehistoric Europe. It was not a dark age of simple survival, but a time of sophisticated sky watchers and master surveyors, people who used geometry to build a permanent conversation with the universe. The silent stones of Karnak do not simply mark a place, they chart a relationship between humanity and the cosmos, a relationship built on lines, angles, and an enduring search for meaning. Of course, such a grand theory does not go unchallenged. the world of mainstream archaeology often views these ideas with a healthy and necessary dose of skepticism. For many professional archaeologists, the simpler explanation is almost always the correct one. They argue that the geometric similarities we see are not proof of a lost global civilization, but rather the natural result of universal human problem solving. There are, after all, only so many stable ways to stack large stones into a lasting structure. A pyramid is a fundamentally solid shape, and its form could have been independently arrived at by any culture seeking height and permanence. The discovery of basic mathematical principles like pi or the golden ratio, they suggest, is not evidence of a shared curriculum but a testament to the universal human mind observing the same patterns in nature, the same spirals in shells, the same proportions in plants, and applying them to their own creations. This perspective, known as independent invention, posits that humanity's genius can spark in multiple places at once without any need for contact. Furthermore, the hard evidence for transoceanic voyages in deep antiquity remains elusive. The archaeological record, as it stands today, does not show the clear material proof like specific pottery styles or domesticated crops that would undeniably link the builders of the pyramids to the architects of Teotihuacan. Engaging with this critical viewpoint is not a dismissal of the mystery, but a vital step in honoring it. It forces us to move beyond the spectacular and scrutinize the evidence with greater care. Perhaps the truth is not a single, forgotten mother culture, but something more complex and nuanced, a tapestry of isolated genius, punctuated by occasional, fleeting contacts and a shared, intuitive grasp of a mathematical universe. This scholarly debate does not close the case, but rather deepens the intrigue, challenging us to find even stronger connections or to reconsider the very nature of human innovation itself. The sheer scale of the Temple of Karnak is a testament to a sacred vision sustained for generations. This sprawling complex in Egypt is not one temple, but a city of stone built and rebuilt over 2,000 years. Its core design principle is one of profound alignment, a central axis that runs like a spiritual backbone through the entire sanctuary. This main pathway is not pointed at random. It is oriented with breathtaking precision toward the point on the horizon where the sun sets on the shortest day of the year, the winter solstice. At that sacred moment, the dying light would have flooded the temple's deepest sanctuaries, a dramatic symbol of renewal and the sun's promised return. This single alignment connects the entire architectural project to the eternal solar cycle, grounding human devotion in the motion of the heavens. Within this grand layout lies the hypostyle hall, an architectural marvel that feels less like a building and more like a stone forest. 134 massive columns rise in a carefully ordered grid, their sheer number and rhythmic placement creating a powerful sense of infinity. The central columns are taller, lifting the roof to allow a flood of light, while the outer aisles remain in a perpetual, awe-inspiring twilight. Walking through this hall, you are surrounded by geometric repetition on a colossal scale. The spacing, the diameter of the columns, and their towering height all adhere to a system of sacred proportion. This was not merely an aesthetic choice. The architects were using geometry as a psychological tool, designing a space that would intentionally overwhelm the senses and make the individual feel small in the presence of the divine. The forest of pillars, the play of light and shadow, and the sheer magnitude of the space were all calculated to evoke a specific spiritual state, one of humility, wonder, and connection to a cosmic order far greater than oneself. Here, geometry was the language used to speak directly to the human soul, transforming stone and space into a living, breathing instrument of worship. The silent stones have kept their secrets for millennia, but now they are beginning to speak through the language of light and data. Modern technology is peeling back the layers of Earth and time, offering us a view of the ancient world we have never had before. At the forefront of this revolution is LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging. Imagine a laser scanner mounted on an airplane, firing millions of invisible pulses of light at the ground. By measuring how long each pulse takes to bounce back, it can create a supremely detailed three-dimensional map of the terrain, digitally stripping away the dense jungle canopy to reveal what lies beneath. The results have been nothing short of breathtaking. In the jungles of Cambodia, LiDAR did not just find a few new temples near Angkor Wat. It revealed the true scale of the city, uncovering a vast, sprawling metropolis with complex water management systems, roads, and thousands of previously unknown structures. This was not just a ceremonial center, but a geometrically planned urban landscape of staggering proportions, its layout mirroring the cosmic order on an unimaginable scale. Suddenly, a single temple complex transformed into the heart of a lost empire, its design principles extending for miles in every direction. The same technology has unveiled hidden cities deep in the Guatemalan jungle, showing that the Maya civilization was far more populous and interconnected than we ever dreamed. These are not isolated discoveries. Satellite imagery surveys the Earth from orbit, identifying subtle variations in vegetation and soil moisture that betray the presence of buried walls and ancient roadways. Meanwhile, ground-penetrating radar sends pulses of energy into the Earth, allowing researchers to see beneath the surface without ever lifting a shovel. At Stonehenge, this technology detected a ring of massive, deep pits surrounding the monument, far beyond the visible stone circle. These findings are transforming our understanding from speculative theory into verifiable fact. We are no longer just drawing lines on a map and hoping they connect. We are gathering hard data that reveals a hidden world of precise alignments and vast networks, proving that ancient planners saw the landscape not as separate sites, but as a single, integrated canvas for their geometric vision. This new evidence brings us closer than ever to answering the ultimate question: were these monuments the work of isolated cultures, or the scattered pieces of a global plan we are only now beginning to decode? The rolling green hills of Ireland hold a secret far older than the pyramids. Newgrange is a massive, circular mound of stone and earth, a passage tomb constructed over 5,000 years ago. That makes it centuries older than Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid of Giza. From the outside, it appears as a great grassy hill, but its true nature is hidden within. A long, narrow passage leads deep into the heart of the mound, ending in a cross-shaped chamber. This entire structure is a masterpiece of Neolithic engineering, built with such precision that it has remained watertight for millennia. The entrance is guarded by a single, massive stone slab, covered in intricate, swirling spirals and concentric circles. These are not random scratches, but a complex language of geometry carved into rock, a silent testament to a sacred knowledge. The purpose of this entire design culminates in a single, breathtaking event. For a few precious minutes around the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, a miraculous thing happens. As the sun crests the horizon, a slender beam of light penetrates a special opening known as a roof box, positioned directly above the entrance. This shaft of sunlight travels down the long, dark passageway, slowly illuminating the inner chamber with a warm, golden glow. This was not an accident. It was the entire point of the construction. The builders possessed a profound understanding of the solar cycle, aligning the entire monument with the rebirth of the sun. They encoded their knowledge of cyclical time into the very geometry of the space, creating a stone calendar that marked the turning of the year with absolute certainty. The fact that we see this same solstice alignment repeated in monuments across the globe, from the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Mexico, suggests a shared, fundamental impulse. It reveals a universal human drive to capture the rhythm of the cosmos in stone, to build a permanent marker of hope against the deepest dark of winter. Even as we stand in awe of these geometric wonders, the final chapter of their story remains unwritten. The most profound questions are those we have only just begun to ask. Were these synchronized monuments part of a planet-wide warning system, designed to track celestial cycles that could signal a future cataclysm? Could the precise alignments have been a way to predict and prepare for an event so significant it threatened the entire human story? Another possibility is even more compelling. Perhaps these structures do not simply hold the knowledge of their builders. Perhaps they encode a deliberate message intended for us, a future generation finally equipped with the technology and mathematical understanding to decode their silent language. The search for answers is now accelerating, driven by new fields of scientific inquiry. Archaeoastronomy meticulously charts the celestial relationships of ancient sites, revealing alignments with stars we once thought were invisible to the naked eye. Digital archaeology uses powerful computer modeling to simulate ancient landscapes, uncovering geometric patterns and relationships that have been hidden for thousands of years. Every year, advanced satellite imaging and ground-penetrating radar reveal the outlines of lost cities and forgotten monuments, adding new points to the global network. With each discovery, we are forced to redraw the map of our ancient past. The true meaning of this planetary geometry is not a secret to be uncovered in a single revelation, but a puzzle that expands with every new piece we find. This is not a mystery locked in the past. It is a living inquiry, an open invitation for a new generation of explorers, thinkers, and dreamers to look at the old stones with new eyes and to help write the next page in humanity's greatest story. From the pyramids of Giza to the temples of Angkor, we have journeyed across continents, tracing a hidden language of geometry written in stone. These silent sentinels, separated by vast oceans and millennia, whisper a secret that challenges the very foundations of our history. They suggest a shared, advanced knowledge that connected humanity in a way we are only now beginning to comprehend. The precise alignments, the recurring sacred ratios, and the celestial maps encoded in their design point to a lost chapter, a potential golden age where science and spirituality were inextricably woven together. The patterns are undeniably there, etched into the very landscape, a permanent record waiting for us to finally decipher its true meaning. What profound message were these ancient builders trying to send across the ages? Was it a warning, a gift of knowledge, or a simple reminder of our connection to a larger cosmic order? The conversation does not end here. Share your own thoughts and theories in the comments below. If this journey into the unknown has captivated your curiosity, subscribe for more explorations into history's greatest mysteries. The stones have spoken. The question is, are we ready to listen?